Back in the late 1940s, the British military was having a bit of an identity crisis. The war was done, the Empire was pulling back, and the Admiralty still hadn't cracked the problem of how to pluck a downed pilot out of the sea without putting a whole destroyer and 250 sailors at risk just because someone missed the landing wires on a sea fire. Then came the Westland WS-51 Dragonfly. The story kicks off in December 1946. Westland Aircraft down in Yeovil struck a deal with Igor Sikorsky to build his S-51 helicopter under license. But being British, Westland couldn't just copy the American design straight up, they had to anglicize it. So they yanked out the original Pratt & Whitney and slapped in a 520 horsepower Alvis Leonidas radial instead. It packed more power, but honestly it made the Dragonfly sound less like a helicopter and more like a tractor tumbling down the stairs. The Royal Navy ordered 71 Dragonfly helicopters, hoping they'd finally get to retire the old Plane Guard destroyers. Before that, these destroyers had to trail behind aircraft carriers all day, just waiting to scoop up any unlucky pilot who ditched during takeoff or landing. With the Dragonfly, only 2 crew members were supposed to handle the whole rescue operation. That was the theory anyway. In practice, the first rescue winches were so feeble that if the pilot they'd found had a heavy breakfast, the helicopter might give up before lifting him out of the water. The Navy labeled the models as HR-1, HR-3, and HR-5, sending them out on ships like HMS Illustrious, Centaur, and even the survey ship HMS Vidal. Somewhere along the way, the Dragonfly picked up the nickname Mercy Bird. Though honestly, the helicopter shook so much during flight that plenty of rescued sailors joked they'd rather take their chances in the sea. The Dragonfly didn't face its toughest test over the English Channel, it got that in the sweltering jungles of Malaya. The RAF used these choppers to evacuate wounded soldiers. And here's where things get absurd, or a bit terrifying depending on how you look at it. The cabin was so cramped you couldn't even fit a stretcher inside. So the British, always creative, just slapped 2 pods onto the helicopter's sides and called them litters. Picture this, you're lying there, injured and strapped into what feels more like a metal coffin than a rescue pod, bolted to the outside of a rattling helicopter, staring straight down through a perspex window at 500 feet of nothing but green jungle below. Sure, it worked, but luxury wasn't really part of the deal. One RAF pilot joked that the only thing louder than the helicopter's engine was the screaming from patients as the canopy rushed past, way too close for comfort. When the first one flew in October 1948, it looked pretty odd. The tricycle landing gear gave it a quirky stance, and the cockpit? Imagine sitting inside a gigantic goldfish bowl. Pilots loved the panoramic view, but for passengers, the ride was definitely an experience. Maybe not the most comfortable, but memorable for sure. The Dragonfly really proved its worth in February 1953 when the Dutch flood disaster hit. 4 helicopters braved a brutal storm to pull people off rooftops. On their first day, they managed to rescue over 200 people. Fast forward to 2026, and the Dragonfly looks like something out of a steampunk display. It's hard not to smile at the old machine when you compare it to the quiet electric tilt rotors and self-flying medevac pods we use today. But you can't dismiss what the Dragonfly actually did. Basically taught the British military how to work with helicopters. They learned the hard way about ground resonance, that wild shaking on the runway that can shred a helicopter if you're not careful. And they figured out that yes, you can land a spinning rotor on a moving ship without it ending in disaster. Well, most of the time. Altogether, they built 149 Dragonfly helicopters. By the mid-1960s, these were out of service, replaced by the Westland Whirlwind, which did almost everything better. Still, the Dragonfly had its own charm. It was tight inside, didn't have much power, and let's be honest, it looked more like a glass box than something made to fly. But it broke ground. This oddball machine saved thousands of people, everywhere from the North Sea to the South China Sea. So next time you watch a rescue copter hanging steady over a wreck, remember the Dragonfly and the gutsy pilots who flew it, often losing a bit of their hearing along the way. I'm FSXNOOB, and thanks for watching.